What's up, guys? Hope your week is going great. We are hanging out with an awesome illustrator today. Chuck is calling in from upstate New York, but he is originally from the Netherlands. He actually came over to the States in 2010 because of his girlfriend, but he actually had his schooling and his education in the Netherlands, and because of that, he brings a really cool perspective to his artwork. We get into some of the differences that he finds with U.S. illustrators versus those especially from Europe, and then we get into some of his books, including one of my personal favorites, The Friendship, which came out late last year in 2016, and he's got a couple coming out in October that you guys want to be looking out for. But Chuck is a great guy, and we talk about some pretty cool stuff. So without further ado, let's dive into the interview and learn about the art of Chuck Groenink. All right, guys, welcome back to the Art of Show. We're hanging out with an awesome illustrator today, Mr. Chuck Groenink. He's in upstate New York, but I hear you were not originally from New York. But we would first want to welcome you to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks. It's interesting to be here.
Good stuff. Well, you're from the Netherlands originally, is that right?
Yes.
That's cool. And then when did you come to the States?
I moved to the US in 2010.
2010, okay.
So it's almost 7 years now.
Gotcha. Growing up in the Netherlands, kind of going to your starts, was art something that was part of your story? Like, were you that kid that was always drawing, or?
Yeah, I pretty much just drew all the time, or I was wandering around outside. But I didn't originally want to go to art school or do anything with it. I watched too much Frasier in the 90s, so I thought I'd become a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And then I realized you had to go to medical school, and to go to medical school you need to have chemistry in high school, and I sucked at it. So then I realized that actually art school seemed like a good idea.
Yeah. So what were the things that you liked to draw, or what were the things you kind of drawn to start?
I was a Tolkien nerd, so I spent a lot of time drawing Lord of the Rings stuff.
Would you like recreate the maps? I feel like I did that as a kid. Like, I always try to like make my own like Middle Earth maps.
Yeah, stuff like that, and just drawing characters and locations.
Who's your favorite character?
Probably Merry or Pippin.
Okay, yeah, they're fun. They're real fun.
They're the guys who aren't the most affected by all the high drama.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like, oh yeah, no, they're the characters that you would be, like any regular person. We wouldn't be afflicted by having all the burden, and you wouldn't have all that backstory of being 1,000 years old.
Yeah, that's good. That's real cool. And so, Jesse, you went to art school in the Netherlands, is that right?
Yes.
And was it for illustration when you went in?
I didn't exactly know if I wanted to become an illustrator, so and the first semester wasn't specialized, so I could still pick. So I thought I might become a high school art teacher, because I think I was a little frightened of the idea of actually going out into the world and becoming an artist. So, but illustration pretty quickly won out.
Gotcha. So I guess before even going into college or going into university, did you have a moment when you're like, art could be a career, other than knowing that like, I'm not going to do chemistry, I'm not going to be a psychiatrist? Like, why was kind of art your next option?
I think, it sounds rather silly, but it was, I graduated high school in 2000, and the year before that, the first Star Wars prequel came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I was pretty into that because, there were I had low standards. But I got, like, the art of Star Wars book, and seeing that people were paid to draw stuff for that made me think, like, oh, that's something I want to do. Of course, we don't have a movie industry in the Netherlands, so illustration sort of like became the thing I became interested in.
That's cool. Were there, when you were in university, were there any projects that you had that kind of really stand out that you loved working on?
There were a bunch. There was I actually really liked doing stuff that wasn't really illustration, so
Okay.
just making props and puppets and so on. And at one point, we had to work on a sort of like digital choose your own adventure thing, I guess.
Okay, cool.
For it. And the school had just gotten drawing tablets like this for the computers. This was like 2003, so it was all very primitive. And our little group had to very quickly come up with some pictures for it. And I remember drawing on the tablet for the first time and just for that thing and just really quickly coming up with things that you wouldn't be able to do with paint and pencil. And like that's the first stand-up moment for me where I realized like, oh, I like drawing on the computer.
That's cool. That's real cool. Yeah, I've talked with several folks that mention, especially when they're a little more established in their career and kind of digital wave came through, that the transition was hard. But that was something you just kind of naturally gravitated towards and you enjoyed?
I think it was because it was very specific. Like pictures were all like, I think like 600 pixels by 800 pixels. And I didn't really know how to use Photoshop.
Yeah.
It just became like pretty much like drawing in Microsoft Paint. It was just, like the restrictions in the media made it a lot of fun to play with, and it was odd for me because I pretty much spent three years in art school refusing to use the computer and never at all.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of the teachers were encouraging people to make animations, and I was like, no, I want to be an illustrator. I don't want to use all this technology.
What? Go ahead.
So I actually I was sort of consciously Luddite in my approach. I was like, I'm just going to use pen and ink.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you mentioned illustration, and you're like, I don't even want to do animation. What was it about illustration specifically that you enjoyed? Like, were there artists that you looked up to outside of like those art of books? But yeah, kind of why was it that static image that you liked?
Well, part of it, I think a key moment for me in illustrating, like finding illustration a thing with a lot of potential and interest was, and I watched the movie Labyrinth for the first time around, like the first year of art school, and in the credits there was a thank you to Maurice Sendak.
Okay.
And specifically, Where the Wild Things Are. And I looked the book up because I didn't know it was in English, so I never knew the English. And I didn't know or remember Where the Wild Things Were, and I didn't know it as Where the Wild Things Were, of course. But anyway, I looked it up, and I remember looking at it. Oh, this was a book from my childhood, and just the fact that those illustrations were apparently still in my mind, like 15 years later after growing out of its audience, made me realize just how powerful children's book illustration can be, and like how formative and how influential it can be, and that made me like, oh, this is not something to just discount, and like this is actually something really like something with a lot of, I don't know what's the right word. But it just made me think like, oh yeah, no, absolutely, I should be doing this.
That's cool. That's really cool. When you look at illustrations now and other artists, is there like a quality or a theme that you're kind of naturally gravitated towards, or just something you really enjoy seeing in other people's work?
I think the work I'm drawn to is I like a lot of very textured work, so like the Provincens. I I like kind of escapist stuff, I think, like not the um not very stuff like that. Stuff with a lot where you can really feel someone's technique
Yeah.
and the materials.
Gotcha. That's cool. That's real cool. All right. So you graduated, is it 2004? Is that right? Have I got the, and then you said you moved to the States in 2010. So when you got out of university, did you go straight into doing illustration as a career? Were you freelancing? Kind of what was that like once you got out?
Well, I mean, there wasn't a lot. The Netherlands is a pretty small country, so there's not that much demand for illustrators, and then there's a bunch of art schools. So the first 4 years after art school, I pretty much made money as a dishwasher and in catering work.
Yeah.
And I did some freelance work for a magazine for kids. Like one of my former teachers knew an editor at a magazine and sent my work in, and so I got some jobs through there. And then in 2007, I got a grant from a foundation set up by the estate of a famous illustrator in the Netherlands. And that sort of gave me the freedom to stop doing stupid jobs on the side.
Yeah.
Focus on work I wanted to make. And that allowed me to sort of jump into illustration full time.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned you were doing some children's magazines. Is that right? How did kind of children's books illustrations, did it come naturally from that? Or is that something kind of later down the line?
Let's see, how did they have it? Oh, right. No, actually what happened was that one of the other people who got the grant had done some educational books. She illustrated a few educational books, and I think she gave me the contact info for the art director for them. So I emailed that guy, and he liked my work, so I got to do a few of those. And then the author of one of those books was friends with a different author who had just written a picture book and thought that my work suited her. So she got in touch with her editor at a publisher, and that's how I got like my first real picture book.
Gotcha. That's cool. What was that book?
Well, it was translated into English as Dear Daisy Dunnington.
Okay. Cool.
And it's published in 2011, I think.
2011. Sweet. Very cool. So what made you decide to come to the U.S.?
Oh, my wife's American.
Oh, that's a great reason. That's real cool. How'd you meet your wife?
We met online, 2006, and then we spent a few years going back and forth.
Okay. And
since I don't have to go to an office, that was easy for me to just make the move.
Yeah. What's it been like since you didn't grow up in the United States? What does your background bring to your art that you would say is different than folks maybe have come through kind of the U.S. and the art schools here?
I think one of the main differences, of course, that I didn't grow up reading American children's books so often. So sometimes I've had talks with people where they've referenced certain things, and I'm just like, no, I don't know that book.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
So there's at least that difference, and I think in approach, Netherlands has a very, very freewheeling picture book culture. I think maybe not as freewheeling and abstract as like some countries in Europe. Like, it's not like France or Belgium, but I think I have a background that is a lot more creative. Well, less creatively restricted. And even in
Gotcha.
America, I don't think it's that creatively restrictive. Like I think there are countries where picture books of illustration is far more bound by sort of this has to be cute.
Hmm.
But and I think one of the big differences in illustration between the US and the Netherlands specifically is I think America has a slightly more academic culture. I feel like you can sort of tell, like, oh, these people seem to have all studied the same stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more emphasis on sort of classical skills.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot more based on like, this is how you paint, this is how you draw.
Yeah.
And I think the education at my school was very much focused on you figure out what you actually want.
Yeah.
So you leave school, or rather, I left school with a sense of like, oh, these are things I like to do, and not specifically, oh, this is how I do it.
Gotcha. That's cool.
I think that informs my work, you know, in that I generally figure out how to make each book as I make it.
Yeah.
I have to sort of like I have a sense of what I want from it, but I don't always know how to get there, which is fun because you get to find out what you're doing as you're doing it, but at the same time it can be a bit frustrating because it involves some wrong alleys sometimes, and you have to go back and start over.
Yeah. What's that kind of process like? Let's say you've got a manuscript that you like, and you're going to. How do you kind of find the core, or how do you find what the art should look like? Kind of what's your process of discovery?
I mean, usually when I read it, I get a sense of like mood and color and sort of, oh, this is kind of neat. I can do this with this, or this has to go in a certain direction, or it evokes a certain thing. And like, I generally don't take a manuscript if I don't get an immediate sense of like, oh, this is how it should be, or I can. And then the second criterion is, can I actually do I think I can get that? Like I've turned these scripts down and I think like, oh yeah, this is lovely. I think it should look like this. There's no way I can do that.
Yeah. That's cool. So as you're getting into it, I guess getting a little more into the nuts and bolts of your process, I feel like I saw maybe on your Tumblr at one point, I think it was a pretty early book in your career. You'd mentioned you're working traditionally as well as digitally, so a lot of mixed media stuff. Is that something you still do? Because I mean, your work, especially the textures of it, I think that was the first thing I noticed, was just how rich the textures were. Even though the colors were a little bit muted, it was still like you could still really feel the organicness of the art. Is that something you still do?
Not in those. The first few books were a mix of like gouache and acrylics and Photoshop.
Okay.
And that's very time consuming.
Yeah.
Like the first picture book I made took almost a year, and it was published in the Netherlands, so the advances took practically nothing.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't very worthwhile.
Yeah.
But I do still. I think all my work is a mix of things. Like the last few books I made were drawn just with pencil and graphite on paper and then colored digitally, but everything I do in Photoshop still is linked to something that started on paper. So I use a lot of brushes that I just made with splashes of paint and ink and so on. So there's always some analog imperfection in there.
Gotcha. That's cool. Is there kind of what's your process as far as the timing? Like, say you get a manuscript now, how quickly are you kind of producing, or how long does it take to kind of produce final art on like a spread? Like once you've got the dummies and you've got the layout, like from how long does that take?
It can. I just finished a book which took way too long, so it's a very loaded question right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I generally it takes a few days to produce a spread.
Gotcha.
I think the last book it took a lot more time because I think I hadn't anticipated quite the level of detail I put into the sketches.
Uh-huh.
So there was a lot of stuff that I just did, which took a lot of time to draw. And so the book I'm working on right now, I'm working on just doing digitally and hoping to speed it up a little bit.
Gotcha. That's
But
cool.
I think generally the process is 4 months.
Okay, sweet. Kind of from start to finish.
Yeah.
Now, are children's books, is that kind of your full-time gig too, or are you also doing some freelance stuff on the side?
No, it's pretty much full time now.
Gotcha. When you get introduced, or maybe you're meeting someone new and you kind of tell them you're a children's book illustrator, what is like the misconception you get the most from people?
I think people think it's fun. Oh, that must be so much fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is fun, but you get the sense that people seem to think you're just like basically drawing like a kid and just having a gay old time
Yeah.
all day. It can't possibly be a job that's frustrating as well.
Yeah. Do you get people pitching you ideas a lot? Like, oh, I've got a great children's book idea.
Not as much recently.
Okay.
I feel like mainly because I've largely disconnected from Tumblr.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which is where, in general, the largest amount of requests and offers come in.
Right. That's cool. So when you hit those times of struggle and you're trying to work through a situation, how do you get through that? Like, how do you kind of find the voice or find the image that you're looking for?
Well, sometimes you start over. I think a lot of it for me is just taking a step back, working on something else and going back to it and just figuring out like what's missing or what went wrong.
That's cool. That's real cool. All right. So you mentioned that before we started recording, you've got a couple books coming out in October. The library book and Rise and Shine. Is that October 2017? Is that right?
Yes.
And who are those published by?
The library book is Athenaeum Books, which is Simon & Schuster, and Rise and Shine is Disney Hyperion.
Okay, cool. How'd you get plugged in with Disney, especially? Was that just through your agent?
Yeah. I don't know. I've worked with Hyperion before, but that was a different editor, so I don't know exactly how this one came about.
Gotcha. And how did you? I know we have lots of folks that listen that either are children's book illustrators or kind of aspiring illustrators, and usually the question, at least I have, and I hear a lot, is kind of how do you find your kind of first agent? How do you get plugged in with that? So how did you get connected into that whole kind of industry and that whole world?
Well, it was after I'd moved to America, and like when I first moved here, it seemed like, oh, I can just still do stuff in the Netherlands. I don't have to physically be there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite work that way. Like I was still working on a book with the same publisher I worked with before, but I didn't get anything new. So I was trying to figure out a way to break into America. And I happened to have met Steve Malk of Writer's House. And so I emailed him, and I think he suggested someone else. So I emailed another agent at Writer's House who emailed me like an hour after my email. It's like, your work is lovely. Unfortunately, I already have someone who's sort of similar, so I don't think we can do this.
Yeah.
But I forwarded your email to someone else at Writer's House, and then 2 hours later, I got an email from that person going, "All right, let's talk."
That's cool. That's really cool.
That person was Stephen Barr, who's now my agent.
That's sweet. And how long have they been your agent?
Just over 5 years.
Okay, so a while now.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's real neat. I kind of the last thing I wanted to touch on, and folks usually have a bunch of different answers to this, is how do you find inspiration? Like, where do you go to kind of keep your creative well full?
I mean, I feel like inspiration is to a large part is just keeping yourself inspired. I was going to say keeping yourself inspired, but that just is an awful phrase. I'd say, I think for me, it's just looking around, like looking at books, looking at art, going outside, just I'd say travel too. I don't, unfortunately, I bought a house, so I don't travel much anymore. But no, but generally from like different places I've visited are very inspiring. Like the last book I did was I got the manuscript after I'd been to vacation on Sweden. So I think just basically that whole vacation got poured into the setting for the book. Like it's things like that.
Gotcha. That's sweet.
And bike rides. Like I need to generally, if I need to figure something out, or if I want an idea, a good long bike ride will solve it.
Yeah. I love riding bikes. So much fun.
Yeah. So, I do too. Unfortunately, I have a distinct disadvantage in America is in being Dutch and just being used to flat.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So I just, anytime I'm going up a hill and there's a car going by me, I swear and go, "What's wrong with this country?"
So many hills. What's going on? Yeah. That's cool. Well, sweet. Well, I appreciate your time and chatting with me. If for folks that are interested, especially in your work and your books that are coming out, any good places that you would send them to check them out?
I mean, one is not supposed to say Amazon, of course, but so I'd say you can always go and you can all buy all my books on powells.com.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I mean, or just go to your local bookstore.
Yeah, that's cool. And your website is just your name, is that right? .com?
Yes.
Good stuff. And we'll make sure to link that in the show notes. But well, good stuff. Well, I appreciate your time. Go ahead.
Of course. No, I was going to say, like, I can say what my name is, but nobody knows how to spell it.
Yeah. How do you spell it? Sorry.
Groenink.
Gotcha.
It used to be a problem with my first name, and then I moved to America, and my last name became a problem.
Oh, really? So Chuck in the Netherlands, that's not...
No, people thought it was spelled TSJUK.
Wow. Definitely have never heard. That's cool.
My own grandmother couldn't even pronounce it. I don't know what my parents were thinking.
Yeah, that's sweet. Well, Ben, I appreciate your time. It's fun to meet your animals, and it was really cool to see your artwork, the stuff you're putting out. So.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.